Team Alpha on 44 different platforms around the world, 3 TV, a bunch of radio, and horde of social media. So you'll find us absolutely or near to everywhere. And my name is Aage. I'm hosting. My co-host Nori just couldn't be here today, and we'll just muddle through without her. It's never the same, but here we are, and we're gonna do all right. We're gonna have some fun. We probably will end up going into every corner of the universe tonight, or maybe not. But if the universe had corners, we would be there. And we're also transmitting on the Conscious Awakening Network. You should go watch some of the stuff. They got close to 50 different shows over there at consciousawakeningnetwork.org. They're talking about all the stuff that we need to know about. And I also want to tell you how you can get a hold of me and get a hold of Nori. Go to broadcastteamalpha.com and find the contact feature. Send us an email. We'll get the email and we'll get back to you and see what we can do. And if you are watching us on YouTube, that's the place to be because that's where we can communicate while we are on the air. And I want to say a few things about our guests because this is going to be a little bit of a learning experience also. She's a phenomenal researcher, and it's going to be fun. So, because we're going to step out of the box, we're going to trample all over the box, burn it afterwards, so there's no chance of ever getting back in that box again, because it's outside of the box where the interesting stuff is. So she is Constance Victoria Briggs with us, and she is a metaphysical, spiritual, and cosmic researcher. And she's a writer of several books. I think it is 6 or so now, or
Yep.
maybe even more. Yeah, yeah. And she is on the radio circuit. In fact, two days ago, she was on Coast to Coast, and she's been there several times. And they don't invite anybody, so that is a good sign. She's gonna have some good stuff for us tonight. And also, she has written her last book. Let me mention that because that one is phenomenal. The last book's title is Earth's Galactic History and the Extraterrestrial Connection. And you can find it on Amazon and everywhere where books are sold. So we're going to talk about that. We also have a lot more to talk about because she has done some recent research. And gosh, I've been talking too much again. So welcome to the show here, Constance.
Thank you, Augie. Thank you for having me back.
This is going to be fun. And you have written so many books and you have so much to talk about. And the thing about it is that when we invite you on to show, we don't tell you what to talk about because whatever you talk about is wonderful. So
Oh,
what do
thank
you
you.
want to talk about tonight? Or also, why did you step out of the box and start writing about extraterrestrials, UFOs, and what's on the moon and Mars
Yeah.
and places?
Yeah. So I want to talk about the extraterrestrials tonight and, anything involving extraterrestrials and life on other worlds and especially the moon. Um, it's really excites me. It's close to my heart. Um, I feel like, it is my mission and my purpose to be a part of this work, a part of a time when I feel that we're getting very close to the time of what the world would call first contact, because I believe we've had contact in other areas, but mass contact, or you can also say disclosure. I feel like we're getting very close to that time that the whole world is going to know that we're not alone in the universe and that we never
Yeah.
were. And I want people to understand that, and I want them to understand that there's more to our world, to our galaxy, universe, solar system than we've been taught, more than we know. So that's why I do it. It is a great love and a great passion, and I want to help people to understand about them.
Yeah. Absolutely. This is a really interesting time when we are that close to being common knowledge around the world that we have friends in space or interdimensionally or wherever they come from.
Right, and they come from all over. I've spent the last 20 years watching what's going on, and with this topic, I've always been interested. I'm a Star Trek woman, you know, so I always had the interest, but 20 years I've been looking carefully, thinking, okay, yeah, the time is coming. But it appears to me that we are entering a time that looks like kind of a convergence of what's going on, because like I said, they're coming from all areas, extraterrestrials, and the information. At first looking, I thought, okay, so we're looking at UFOs coming in, someone's operating those UFOs. You hardly ever hear anybody talking about actually who's operating them. They focus on the machinery, but there's someone, in charge, right? But then, there's all the information about the moon, what's happening with the moon. And then there's other information about other areas of the solar system. And now we are looking at the oceans. So I feel like there's a convergence of information coming out, so that we're not going to just be ready when we understand that we're not alone in the universe. We're going to be ready. And also, there's the interdimensionals, but we're going to be ready to understand that there is a lot more going on than just the UFOs. There's all this information converging
Now at
together to help us understand
conquerpreneur.com
that this thing is
slash
bigger than even just, studying the little gray extraterrestrials. It's huge. There are otherworldly beings everywhere. And all of them are not even otherworldly, Augie. Some of them are terrestrial, but they're so different than we are. I'm talking about the inner earth, and I believe there are different groups in the ocean. So there are terrestrials that are like extraterrestrials, and there are extraterrestrials. But all this information is coming out right now. I call it a convergence. Maybe I'll write a
Yeah,
book on that.
absolutely. And you mentioned the ocean.
Yeah.
Nobody is talking about that except for a few people. And there is one rear admiral from the Navy. You probably heard of him. He came out and said there are extraterrestrial bases under on the floor of the ocean because we can see them. You,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
I don't know if you're speaking of Gallaudet or Graves, or the three gentlemen that were at the hearings. But yes, you're right. No one's talking about them. And I just feel like I'm, imagining things sometimes, because I look at the news, you would think it would be all over the news. We have so many stories now
yeah,
and in the past. I wrote about some of them in my book, about past stories of UFOs going into the oceans and coming out. Now, this has been going on for decades, centuries
yeah.
even. And how come nobody's talking about it? Well, some of the people, most of the world probably isn't aware. That's why, we need to educate people. But for the ones who do, I listen to a lot of what people are saying on social media, and they're saying, oh, I had this experience, I saw this experience. No one's, and people will say, well, we don't care. We still have to pay our bills. We still
Mm-hmm.
have to go to work. We have other things to think about. So that's the mindset of some people. But,
Yeah,
the problem with this is we don't know who it is. And I don't think they're a threat, but who knows? who knows what could come of this? They have been known underwater UFOs. We call them USOs, underwater submerged objects. Once a UFO hits and goes under, they're submerged. They have been known to mess with ships. Now, when I say mess with them, they're not bombing them or anything like that, but they mock them or they tease them. They'll go really fast up to them sometimes, and then like they're going to crash and then move out the way. They're messing with our people sometime, and I'm like, who are they? Why are they doing that? And why do they not even introduce themselves? So that's a mystery because they know we're here. They're not interested, maybe. I don't know. But Augie, there's enough evidence out there. I put it in Earth Galactic History book. I'm writing a book now on USOs. There's so much information on these guys going in and out of the water that I don't think we can ignore this any longer.
No, absolutely. And the people in those ships, or the flying discs, or and the submerged, they know that we know they're there.
Mhm.
So when they are flying, let's say, towards almost like a collision course and then we're off, they're just kind of doing it for maybe just make us aware of that we're not going to hurt you.
Yeah, entertainment purposes for themselves too.
Yeah, yeah,
Are they friend or foe then, Augie? Because I do believe they're a friend, but my goodness, they can be mischievous sometimes. And there have been people, Augie, I have one story in my book that talks about people standing, I think it was Russia, standing on a shoreline, and this UFO was hovering, and they were coming down some kind of ladder rope thing. These extraterrestrials are going into the ocean and coming back out. I don't know if they were fixing something or checking it out, but they were totally ignoring the bystanders, the human bystanders on the beach. That's how bold they can be. They're humanoid, and they were
yeah,
dressed in some kind of, wetsuits or spacesuits or something, but they were just ignoring them. I have that story in there. And there's a number of those. They know that we know, but they don't care.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of people I ask, they keep asking for disclosure, disclosure, disclosure. It's been done already. There are government officials from NASA, from the Russian Space Agency, even Medvedev himself on live TV in Moscow says, yes, we know. We know that the UFOs are here. We're communicating with them, but we can't talk about it because they're afraid of panic. So why are we still, you know, asking for disclosure? Are we that dumb, or are we just dumb that we listen to government and then I say, no, there is no such thing?
So I can give you my opinion on that.
Yeah,
I we have a lot of brilliant people out there working on disclosure, but in my opinion, we don't have to wait. You need to follow your own mind. You can see the evidence. You don't need people to tell you that they're here. You don't need someone to officially tell you they exist. They exist. There have been lots of voices who have said it. There are lots of people coming forward, be outside of the government, telling you what they've seen. We have cameras all over the place. There's no dispute anymore as to, if we're alone or they're there. You don't need someone to officially say it to you. And I think that a lot of people are past that anyway. I mean, there's a saying that I've seen on social media where people are saying, we are the disclosure, because they're
yeah,
giving information. They're talking about their communication with the extraterrestrials. They're talking about the sightings of UFOs. I know of people who have seen them land in extraterrestrials coming out, walking about. We don't need someone to tell us how to think.
no,
So I would just like to leave people with that thought. Get your books, do your research, find out what's going on, become a part of the UFO, what I call the UFO community, because there's lots of information coming
yeah,
out all the time.
absolutely. And like you said, there are a lot of people. outside the government also that has come out and said, what the truth is. Here, I got one of them. That is a NASA scientist. He was a leading scientist at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. He came out and said, after investigating the pictures and what the activity and the crashed crafts on the moon, he said, Earth, no, he said the moon and Earth are and have been visited on a regular basis by extraterrestrials. That statement comes from a leading scientist at the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. That's one of them. And then there's something that everybody can go look up. Go ahead and Google a chronological catalog of lunar events. It was a classified document that is now released. It shows you about 300 different sites and activities on the moon, about pyramid bridges being built, lights moving, a whole crater lit up like a candle, and then light going out. And all of this has been observed with tremendously strong telescopes. In
I
fact,
was trying.
Cassini, even 300 years ago, wrote about activities on the moon. So there
I
is
got
no. There you go.
That's it. That's it. It's I usually show this when I'm talking about the moon, all right? And it is the NASA Lunar Technical Report. Can I
Yeah.
elaborate on what you're saying, Augie?
Yes.
So, this book goes back to oh gosh, I want to say the 1500s, and so the astronomers from the beginning until 60s were recorded, and
Yeah.
who were studying the moon, and they were put in this booklet. This book was commissioned by NASA. And what's interesting is that some of the astronomers are very famous from the old days up until now, and they would put, okay, I observed, they would put what they observed and how long they watched it, and what it was. So you might have an astronomer who said, oh, on the moon, I saw, in one case, insects or some kind of animal moving across the lunar surface going at such and such a miles per hour, and I observed it for 1 hour. And so they have it all in, that kind of thing, all in a graph where you can, can't see it very well, but it's a graph
Yeah.
and you can track it. Oh, I watched, for example, in one of the craters, I would see geometric shaped lights going on and off, and I watched it for 15 minutes. And this happened on this date. What were they? I saw a fog moving across the moon's surface. There's not supposed to be fog, right? And I watched it for 2 hours. They have all of this detailed accounts of things going on up there. I watched lights, going across the surface. I saw lights above, above the moon, which of course there shouldn't be. And they weren't using the term back then of UFOs. They were saying lights and stars. And we would call them today UFOs. But what was interesting, my point is they were recording this at the British Astronomical Society, centuries ago. They were seeing weird things on the moon. And they were saying, there's life up there. There are people up there. Look at all of this stuff that we've written down. So I would just want to say that when NASA sent the astronauts to the moon, they knew. They knew that someone was up there because they had all the information. It wasn't
Yeah.
call this at the time. They had to go and redo the research and put this thing together. But they knew when they sent someone up there that they had all this information and they sent men anyway. I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. The thing about the moon, let's talk about the moon a little bit. That's your favorite anyway. And the moon is such an enigma that the more we find out, the more questions we get, because according to the laws of physics, it can't be there.
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
take Let me say this, and then I want your opinion on it because you've been studying this more than I have. We know the size of the moon. We know how far away it is. We know how fast it is going around Earth. And we know the centrifugal force that is created by that curvature around the Earth. And we know, because of the size of it, we know how much gravity is put out. If we feed all that into the computer, it doesn't come out. It does not. It cannot hold that orbit. It is too big, too heavy, moving too fast around the Earth. It cannot hold the orbit. But if it were two-thirds way out, it could hold the orbit if it was solid. But it could hold the orbit that it has now if it is hollow, because then it would be a lot lighter. What is your words? What do you think of that?
So, yeah, I agree with the, and I'll just say what it is. It's this, I call it the spaceship moon theory.
Yeah.
The moon, it really shouldn't be there. It, it is thought by many, in the past, by a few in the past, not many, to be, have been brought here, and I call it the spaceship moon theory. Now, so this is what happened. Um, there is a tale out of Africa that came out that is from ancient times, interestingly, that talked about the moon being an egg and being dragged into our universe and placed there. And this story was given to an African tribe, thousands of years ago. And I thought that was interesting because that thousands of years ago story matches a story that came out in the 1960s by Soviet scientists. Soviet scientists took a look at NASA's research from the astronauts and what they found on all of those missions. What they found, they found number one, as you said, Augie, that that the moon is hollow. They crashed a piece of the lunar module into the moon. Is called the ascent stage, and it, as we all know, we famously it rang like a bell. Well, it didn't really ring; it reverberated. But they looked at that. That was interesting because at that time, the scientists of NASA said, "Oh, it looks like the moon. It must be hollow if it did that." And they didn't want to admit it, but they did, and one of them said it in front of the cameras at a press conference. So that wasn't a hoax or anything. That was NASA saying the moon to them looked hollow. But most of us weren't around to see that, but they did. So, and the Soviet scientists also looked at the rocks and the dirt and what have you. And they looked at what the moon was made up and some of the experiences of the astronauts, like not being able to drill into the moon's surface, it being so hard. And they were like, what the heck? We can't drill. There's got, a hard shell. And then, the makeup of it is these very harsh chemicals. And finally, the Soviet scientists said, you know what? If we were going to make a ship, the moon looks like what we would do. It is made up of all the elements that we would use to make a ship. And they said what the moon looks like is it has camouflaged to look like a ship that was sent across thousands of miles across the universe. And they said, we believe that it has got instrumentation in it and anything else needed to survive a long journey across the universe. And they believed that someone was living in the moon. So a ufologist by the name of Don Wilson wrote a book, a little tiny book that really I loved, called "Our Spaceship, Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon," and that mirrored what the Soviet scientists said, and it mirrors that ancient tale of these extraterrestrials sending what they called an hollowed out egg across the universe and placing it in Earth's vicinity. So
Yeah.
I believe that story. I believe that there is someone in there. I don't know if it's the same beings that arrived originally or if it has been replaced with someone else in all these years, billions of years ago. But yeah, so that's what I think. I think it. Oh, by the way, just very quickly, where it is placed and the way that it's placed, Augie, what you were saying, the chances of it being there are being able to be there are so small. It is believed by some that the extraterrestrials placed it where it is as a sign that we would see intelligent design, that we would be able to, humanity would be able to see that someone placed it there so that when we were ready, we could say, hey, that couldn't have been placed. That couldn't be natural. Someone put it there. And that would open our eyes that we're not alone in the universe. That was their mission, part of the mission with the
Yeah.
moon.
Yes, absolutely. I tell you, you done your research because what you talked about is just like you read it out of the article that in 1970, two Russian scientists, that was Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sharbakov, they were quoted in Sputnik magazine. They were saying, and that's a quote, the moon is of extraterrestrial origin and was placed there a long time ago and is not completely natural. That was put in Sputnik magazine as a Moscow magazine in the 70s, where everybody watched it. So you had scientific stuff as well as goofy stuff in there. They covered everything.
You
And
know,
the Russian knew this in the 70s.
that's right. And, Russia doesn't mess around, do they? I don't believe that these
No.
these Soviet scientists would embarrass Russia if they didn't believe what they were saying. They wouldn't put their reputations on the line like that if
Yeah.
they really didn't believe it.
Hmm. And for those of you that like to do a little more research on your own out there, write to NASA. In fact, go to their website, nasa.gov, I think, or .org. I'm not sure, but
It's
you'll find
.gov.
it.
I think it's
Yeah.
.gov.
Okay.
And
And
Augie,
yeah.
they can also
And
find it in my books.
yeah, write to them and ask
Yeah.
to have a plate or a print sent to you of
Mm.
the Schrödinger crater. I'm
Ah,
gonna spell that Schrodingер crater.
mhm,
When you get that, um, I have one that actually have a building in it. That building is well over a mile long and very narrow. It looks like a swastika. And that is a NASA print. I got that print from them probably around 35 years ago, before they started to smudge it out. If you get that print from NASA now, you're going to see it's a rough surface all over, except for one spot when everything is smooth. That's where the swastika is, and they may have smudged it out, unless you get an old picture, which you might. So, but that is a total telltale. People build that. And another thing, they don't build stuff like that in spacesuit. There are air up there. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. What do you think?
well, no, I think you're right. And there's air up there, and there's foliage up there, and there's cities up there, and there's trains up there, and we have pictures to prove that. And
Yeah,
we had those pictures before any astronauts went up. We had the lunar orbiter
yeah.
photographs that showed a lot of things.
Yep.
For anyone who is willing to listen to the contactees who say they have been to the moon, I feel like their writings gave a lot of information to. They saw, one of them. I'm forgetting which one. It's several, but one of them saw bartering going on in the moon. He said there were ships coming and going, and they were had a bartering system. I don't know what they were giving, what they were
Yeah.
trading, but he witnessed that. He witnessed a train up there, and in cities.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And Now, which one of your books, if people want to know more about the moon, which one of your books would you say would cover most of that? I think you got pictures and things.
Yeah, so that would be the moon's galactic history.
Yeah,
Yeah. You might check that out. You had told me to mention them. I was trying to earlier, and I thought, oh well, okay, I'll mention both of them because I've got two. I'll go ahead and talk about the Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries. That's a good
yeah,
one. It doesn't have as many pictures as the Moon's Galactic History. One is a narrative, one's an encyclopedia, but I think
yeah.
they've got some good information.
I would say go to Amazon, put her name in there, and all the books come out, and you're going to find one you can't live without.
I don't know
So,
about that. You
yeah,
can check
and
your library. Check your libraries too, guys.
yeah, there you
That's
go.
fine.
And we're down at the bottom of the hour here. So, for those of you that joined us late, we are here talking with Constance Victoria Briggs, and you will find her at constancevictoriabriggs.com. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there, as well as go to Amazon, put her name in there, and look at her books because she has done a lot of research and you find stuff in her books that you don't find anywhere else. And I'm saying that not lightly because I've done a lot of research too. So just go have a look at it. And we are talking about the moon and well, everything else. Extraterrestrials are all over this solar system because we have the evidence. We got pyramids on the moon, buildings on the moon, we got pyramids on Mars, we have buildings on Mars. And I think it is one of the astronauts, he found a monolith on one of Mars's moons. And he's asking, who put it there? It's too perfect to be natural. So there's somebody out there doing things we are not told about.
That's
Yeah,
right. I agree.
yeah. Where, what else can you tell us about the extraterrestrials in the, maybe in our solar system?
You know, I
What do
liked that you were I like the part about the moon because I just wanted to say that when it comes to that, we're finding so much there today, but there was an old story that I put in my book, and it's under sign signals, messages, and clues. And actually, this is an Earth galactic history because I was trying to tie us together with the solar system, where someone up there, uh, the Soviets had sent up a probe, and that probe got too close to Mars's moon, Phobos, and it was fired on. Do you remember that story? That thing was fired on. They've got a picture of a cylinder ship or something knocking the probe out of the way. So I just wanted to say that, yeah, someone's there, and we don't know if they were trying to cover up what was on the Mars or on the moon Phobos. That's where I was going. Phobos is thought to also be hollow like the moon and to possibly have someone inside of there. And that monument that you were talking about coming from Buzz Aldrin's comment, um,
Yeah, that's
is
it.
probably put there by whomever is inside of, of that moon. And it's interesting to me that we've got two different stories. The moon is hollow and the Phobos moon is hollow, and there's probably something going on there. And also inside of Mars, whatever happened on the surface of Mars, and I do believe that that was a war that possibly involved Earth, Mars, and the Moon at one point. But the beings or the people may have gone inside the Mars as well. That there's a lot of cavities there, and they may be living inside. So it's interesting because a scientist said that he thinks we're living inside out on Earth, that we really should be on the inside. He thinks that um, a lot of worlds out there are on the inside because of all of the radiation and bombardment from meteors and calamities out there that could affect a world. That some of these planets and planetoids and planetary bodies, even asteroids, could have people living inside. So that's what I was reminded of when you were talking about Mars, that someone's there and they were trying to hide that when that Russian probe went up that time. So I thought I'd mention that anyway.
Yeah, there's so much out there, and you cover a lot of that, and
Yeah.
the
Hmm. I'm
and I
sorry.
think people out there, it would be good if you knew a little bit about these things, seen the pictures, read about it, because we are getting really close to some type of statement from government saying, yeah, the UFOs are real, there are extraterrestrials, and we're communicating with them. Then what are you going to do if you don't know anything? That's when fear set in. Educate yourself a little bit first so you can realize that nothing to be afraid of. What do you think of that?
So I think that extraterrestrials are a lot have a lot to do with what's going on behind the scenes of Earth, understanding who they are and what their purpose is with Earth. I think that they're one of their agendas is to bring Earth into what we call the galactic community. There are worlds out there that are waiting for us to come in, I believe. And they're not going to do that while we're a warring species. They want us to come in peacefully. So I think that the extraterrestrials are using our media to educate us about them. And I think that's where Star Trek comes from, Star Wars comes from, all of these things that are helping us to understand that we're not alone because this is what people are doing. That's what they're watching, that's what they're reading, that's what they're excited about. Hollywood.
Mm,
So, yeah, I think we're being educated that way, but I think we have to take it one step further, like you're saying, and do our own research. There are tons, almost, I think just about all the books here behind me are all on this subject. There are tons of books out there for learning and growing so that we understand that they're not here to hurt us, they're here to help us. Although some will disagree with that. And I'm not saying that they're not bad and good in the universe, but the ones that we're seeing, if they wanted to hurt us, they would have done so by now.
yeah,
All right. So please keep that in mind and do your research.
yeah, and there's a little more logic to that too. That now we can shoot them out of the sky. If they wanted to take over Earth, they would have done that 300 years ago when we would be no danger to them. So
Yeah.
they would have
Yeah.
taken it over, but they are
But
not doing it.
I would also like to say that we have different levels of extraterrestrial technology visiting Earth. Um, if you look at some of the descriptions of the ships are so different, which tells you that we have different races of beings visiting, but different levels. So that, I think that some of the ones that have crashed are not as advanced as perhaps that uh, there was a UFO over the ocean with a sphere inside of a square. One of the gentlemen who um, testified in front of Congress talked about this thing. It was very sophisticated compared to some of the other ships that we're seeing. So I just want to say that, yeah, if they wanted to hurt us, I think there are levels of technology out there visiting that they could take us out anytime.
Yeah,
Some of them we have shot down, but I'm trying to say I'm not so sure we can shoot them all down. All right, some of them are just way too superior. Maybe some of the little ones that have come down, yes, that we can shoot, but we can't do that to all of them. But interestingly enough, we have stories of extraterrestrials trying to save us from ourselves. There are extraterrestrials turning off missiles and bombs. There are extraterrestrials that have tried to come between wars, now, warring factors here. Going back to ancient times, I've written about that. There are stories of UFOs coming down. The ancients called them flying shields because they had nothing else to compare them to but a shield of battle. So to them, saucer-shaped UFO was a shield, but we have stories of them trying to separate wars. So they are trying to help. They're trying to save us from ourselves because we are hurting each other. And the atomic bomb, they have communicated, can cause problems throughout the galaxy. So they're trying to save us from ourselves, and they're trying to, stop us from, hurting others. So they are benevolent. Is that to say there are no malevolent ETs? There are. I believe that there is a battle for Earth, but I think that we are being protected from the malevolent
Yeah,
ones.
I totally agree. I think we are being more protected than what we would think. There are very powerful forces, both positive and negative out there. And there's so much that is covered up. Just a little short story to that. Years ago, when I had the flight operation, we had an Air Force pilot that got out of the Air Force and he came to work for us. And he said that we got to talk about UFOs and things. And he said, in the flight manual, he says, there's a listing, they have a listing of all the different silhouettes of airplanes. And they should learn what the silhouettes look like. One of them looked like a UFO flying disc. And the comment on it was that do not approach or do not shoot at it is ours. Now that was in the Air Force flight manual that they had to learn. So it is there, but they're told not to talk about it. I think some of these things will come out here much more so in the next few months because we're
Um,
close.
I, you know, I don't know which one will be ours. That's the problem because there are saucer shaped from us, shaped just saucer shaped UFO type uh aerial craft from us. You're saying, but there's also saucer shapes from extraterrestrials. How are they supposed to know which is which?
Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's not good. They're
No,
similar. We fire on one of our own people, yeah.
yeah. And also, we talked about this before. We have a picture of everybody probably have heard about the tic tac.
Yes.
And there is a picture. In fact, I have it on my Facebook page and I send it to you. You have it too. This is now showing up on the NASA flight manual. And it is a CL957 second generation aircraft. It is made by Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company, Boeing, and Pratt and Whitney. That is put all together by the Skunk Works because it says right on the paper, the Skunk Works make it and it is ours. Uh,
Well, I'd like to question them and ask them to what end? To what end would they be using this technology? Because it's certainly not to help Earth. You
yeah,
know, what are they doing with this technology if it's ours? That's pretty shocking information. And I think a lot of people would find it very interesting, especially the men that were testifying in front of Congress talking about the Tic Tac. They were
yeah,
convinced that they were ET related. So that's interesting news, Augie.
yeah. And to what end? I don't see anything coming from that that benefits us.
Right.
but they may have different agendas, like traveling between planetary systems, or we don't know. I know of one thing for sure, and that is that we're well over probably at least 100 years behind the real technology of what we are told.
Yes, yes. In fact, there was a gentleman who worked at Skunk Works who
Yeah,
said that, we've got technology that's ahead, and some of it can be comparable to some of the stuff we've seen on Star Trek, but he did not specify.
yeah,
So I don't know what he was talking about. I mean, it could have been something small, you know, or who knows, maybe it had to do with a ship that is being kept from the public. But we still have UFOs from other places visiting us. This doesn't mean that what we're seeing out there, everything is ours. It's not. In fact, I have a chapter in my book. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. It's called Signs, Signals, Messages, and Clues. Signs that I looked for in our solar system and galaxy and on Earth that we are being visited, that's tangible, that I could talk to an audience about. And one of them, and people do not like to always hear about this because they think it's a hoax, but they're not. They're the crop circles. I'm bringing up the crop circles, A, because this topic is easily identifiable to most people. I can tell you now that these things, as we know, turn up overnight. Some people have written them off because they think that they're created by people. They're not. Some of these things, and they're now called crop formations because they're not all in circles, some of these things are several football stadium size across. You can't do that overnight. They've
no,
proven that they're real, and we have video, we have footage of them being created by orbs creating them. So that idea that they're a hoax should, be, I think, of course, tossed aside. But you can read
yeah.
about that in my book. But the messages that they're coming in with from outside is interesting. One of them, and I'm going to give the audience homework. They can look it up. The crabwood crop formation. All right. This message had the head of an extraterrestrial. The formation was a head of a picture of an extraterrestrial along with the disc. And in the disc contained a message, and the message said basically for us to be careful, to beware of bringers of false gifts. And we don't know. It was interpreted by a scientist what the disc said. So again, it's a crop formation of a head of a picture and a disc like a CD disc. And what's inside the disc was decoded by a scientist. And it said for us to be careful. And I believe that it may have been warning us about some beings that might come and try something sneaky with us. We've heard about the incidents with the presidents where one of them was supposed to have made a deal with extraterrestrials. My point in bringing this up is that even though we may have technology that is ours that looks like UFOs, there are still plenty of beings out there that are trying to make contact with us. Don't be fooled. It's not all ours. And there are some out there that are watching us and trying to communicate with us by using the wheat fields and grain fields as some kind of billboard to give us a message. Well, these guys were telling us to be careful who we trust. All right.
Mhm.
That didn't come from Earth. That came from out of space. And then another crop formation, and you can look this one up. That it's the um, Arecibo message, and so we sent out from a telescope in Arecibo telescope in Hawaii a message
Mhm.
into space saying what Earth looks like, what humans look like, how we're made up of, our DNA makeup, and how the population on Earth. We get sent this out, and they said, "Oh, nobody's." The scientists said, "Oh, we're going to send it out. Probably won't hear anything back. And if we ever hear anything back, it'll be thousands and thousands of 1,000 years or something." Anyway, they got a message back. I think it was, like I don't know, 25 years, and it came in the form of a crop formation, and it looked almost identical to what we sent out. It was a crop formation with the data. and it had a
Mm.
stick figure, like we said, the stick figure, and it gave us their population, it gave us their genetic makeup, and it told us, approximately where they were. So they're out there. They're out there in the galaxy, and they got the message and they answered. So for people who believe that they're not real, they're not contacting us, they are. They're trying to find ways to contact us. And some of the ships that we're seeing coming in are, of course, from them. There's another message from Cassiopeia. We have been getting messages from Cassiopeia for years and years and years. And the scientists are working on figuring out what they're trying to tell us. There's all kinds of things going on, everybody. It's the most interesting stuff in the world. And if we just keep, digging and looking and researching, we can find answers, as to if we're alone in the universe or not, and if they're with us. There's a lot of them with us, and they're just waiting to introduce themselves, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, the more we find out, the more questions we get. So it's a never-ending story and get more and more interesting the deeper we get into it. Because I have found that the deeper I get into it, the more and more spiritual this concept and this subject becomes. It has a spiritual side to it that a lot of people don't see it. They see this little metal box sitting in the sky. No, there is more to it than that. Because when we start talking about them traveling from here to the Pleiades in 20 minutes, which we are told they do. Now you don't do that with Newtonian physics. You got to step into quantum mechanics to explain how they do it. And there, in quantum mechanics, is where you find the spiritual principles. So it's going to lead you higher and higher the more you research you do.
It's going to lift you up.
Yeah, that is
Um,
important.
I wanted to, before we go, I know we're running out of time. I just wanted to say that the extraterrestrial topic isn't something that started in the modern era. This thing goes back to our ancient times, guys. We've got writings and text and cave drawings, even, of beings that were visiting Earth and interacting with humans. And I do believe that one of the reasons we see them visiting today is because they started all of this. They started with possibly, and it's a theory, possibly terraforming Earth. And I say that because scientists have said they really don't know where life started, that the idea of evolution is a theory, and that is a problem because they can't prove where life started. So I have the theory that Earth was terraformed, and humanity started with the extraterrestrials, which is too much to get into with a few minutes, but I believe that they interacted with us back there. They educated us. We've have text talking about beings that came from the stars. Some people call them angels. Some people call them gods, or just star beings that came and helped mankind to learn to be a civilization, and gave us lessons on things. And then they kind of withdrew, but they didn't go away. They withdrew like you leave a child to learn how to grow and live on their own. They kind of backed away from us to give us a chance because we do have free will. But they've always been there watching. And from that time until now, we have stories. So we are not alone. We never have been alone. And we also have tales of different kinds of extraterrestrials, different groups of extraterrestrials. It looks like our galaxy is full of humanoid beings, that we all had the same origin, but there are some differences. If you go to my book or other books and look up extraterrestrials and the different types, you'll see many are similar, many are the same, and you can learn about who they are and what people have seen and who they've interacted with. I've got stories going back to medieval times of one of them was a farmer who ran into um, the Nordics, what we would call the Nordic beings. All those many years ago, they had landed in his field. he was doing some work in the field, and they landed, and they got out of the ship, and he described them, and we have interpreted them as the Nordics of what his description fit that. So, and these are humanoid beings with long hair, usually white or blonde, and so there are more. I wanted to say that all extraterrestrials are not gray aliens. There are different types. The Nordics are just one. If you've never heard of them, look them up. It's very interesting. In my book, I have a list of the main ones that people have interacted with and seen.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting reading. I mean, not just here. You can just go on. You can also go online. Augie, I'm not, I'm not a saleswoman or anything like that. I write for the love and the passion. And I'm doing this to help educate people, but you can look this stuff up online. Just Google extraterrestrials and see what you come up with. You'll be fascinated.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because once you start dipping the toe into this subject, you're going to end up diving in the pool because it fascinates you because it creates questions. Where do we come from? Who are we? Who are they? Are they good? Are they bad? There's so many questions that just flows at you, and you've got to find the answers. Otherwise, you can't sleep at night. So research it. So you educate yourself. So there is no fear. Fear destroys everything.
Yeah, yeah, and we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing more out there. There's some video of extraterrestrials walking down the street. Have you seen that, Augie, out of LA? They're saying that was an extraterrestrial, and now someone's saying, no, 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 that was someone with a blanket. Yeah, sure, right. Sure. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen the video. We're not stupid. There's and people who have caught things looking in their ring camera, like, what?
Yeah,
There's a lot
that's
going on.
true. Yeah, that's true. We got to be a little careful because there's a lot of fake things out there.
Yeah. If yeah. There are,
Use
yeah, no.
use discernment. Oh gosh, we're down towards the end. Let people know where they can get a hold of you and get the books. And if somebody want to talk to you, tell you, I got this phenomenal story. I want to talk to Constance and get her opinion. How can they contact you?
Yeah, just go to my website, constancevictoriabriggs.com, www.constancevictoriabriggs.com. It's very
Yeah.
easy to reach me. And I'm on Facebook, by the way. And yeah, and you can get the books at Amazon if you're so interested, or Adventures at Limited Unlimited Press. They have them too,
Hmm.
or anywhere really.
Yeah. How many books do you have now? Six?
I have 6 out,
Okay.
yeah. 3 dealing with the cosmic, 2 books on the moon, 1 on Earth's galactic history, the 1 on angels, 1 on the unseen world, what happens after life after death. That's an encyclopedia. You can look up angels, you can look up God, the light, what happens after death, afterlife communication. Encyclopedia of God, a book about the different beliefs in God through the ages. The Encyclopedia of Angels gives the list and names of angels. It's very concise. Yeah, and then Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries, the moon's galactic history, who's on the moon, why are they, there? Is the moon artificial? All the stuff we talked about, but in greater detail. It talks about our own future of going into space and creating a colony,
Yeah.
and Earth's galactic history, which is the one we're talking a lot about
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. And our galactic history is not like we have been told. There's more to it than that.
There's more to it, and we need to know, guys, what's going on out there. And
Yeah.
it's a subject that should be taught. Should be more Zoom meetings or, I don't know, meetings with the general public talking about this stuff. Because more and more people are seeing things and they're a little freaked out. Very interesting.
That's
Yeah.
right. Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us. This was
Thank you
fun.
for having me. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
All right. Thank you very much. And if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe. That'll help us a lot. And until next time, be good to each other.